Remember when I told you guys to take the back roads when you can? Well, we took the back roads and came across this cemetery, which is very, very old. And it's in the Blaine community of Knox County, close to Corrington area. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So let's go. All right, now, Zachary Cemetery. It's actually on Zachary Town Road, and it is very close to House Mountain State Park. Absolutely beautiful area. I mean, it is gorgeous. But the problem with the cemetery is we've been there twice now, and there's a home right in front of it, unfortunately, and never can find anyone there to give us access because you actually have to use their driveway to park and walk through their yard to get to it, which I'm sure would be no problem, but our problem was we never could get to it. So we're going to share it with you this way. This cemetery was once known as Zachary Town in this community area here. And it's not far from Washington Pike, if you know anything about the Knoxville area. And it is in the rural county. It's in the rural part. It's towards the east. And so I'm going to give you a little picture here to look at the cemetery. And you can't tell in the photo, but it sits right behind the house. And you would have to, like I said, it's just a lot of problems when we've come up so many times to the cemeteries, but there's a house there. Or there's dogs in the yard running around. You don't know. So we just have to do it sometimes like this. And it does have 152 people buried there. So let's get started with the names. Now this is an old one. Like I said, it's an oldie. It's first settlers. So get ready to put in there your DNA, ancestry, whatever, and let's go. First we have Nancy Jane Zachary Atkins, 1848 to 1917. We did find a really cool picture of her and her husband, Wesley Sylvester Atkins. Now Wesley's not buried here. He's buried in the Kelly Cemetery in Union County, Tennessee. And we are planning to make a trip to there and see what we can find. So, yeah, it's just her, but Union County is right on the line. Then we have their son, Robert Conley Atkins, 1880 to 1966. And next is Lodine E. Carpenter, 1912 to 1999. Betsy Jane Shop Childs, 1820 to 1823. And you can see that the tree is eaten. It's grown over her grave. But like I said, it is an old cemetery. So then we have D.S. Childs, 1849 to November 22nd of 1853. With his brother, James F. Childs, 1848 to November the 21st of 1853. So, D.S. was 4 years old, and James was 5 years old. And you'll notice they died just a day apart. I'm wondering if it was an accident. I'm wondering if it was flu, typhoid. I don't know. If you guys know the history on these brothers, I'd love to know about this. But it's super sad. Two children just dying a day apart. at that age too. You know, that's sad. Move on. Let's move on. Diane Louise Childs, 1845 to 1870. And then we have twin sons of the Childs family, and they was born and passed June the 15th of 1858. And Joseph S. Childs, he was born February 1851. He passed away only 2 months later. Malvani C. Childs, she was born in November of 1853, and she only lived for 3 months. Here we go. Lots of kids already. Martha Emmeline Childs, she was born in April of 1858, but she only lived for 8 months. Mary Ann Faust Childs, 1820 to 1854. And we think that this is her mother. This is the mother of most of the children that we've already looked at. So, this lady here, if we're correct, has lost a lot of children. So I can't imagine the heartbreak that she's had to go through. And like I said, back then, they would have these children with a bunch of little children at their feet anyway. They would have to just go on with their lives, sad or not sad, because they had a family to take care of. These women were hardcore, true mountain women. Next we have Solomon Scott Childs, 1847 to 1872. George R. Clift, in 1913 to 1980, so that's not very old. But George served in the U.S. Army during World War II. And now his wife, Helen Julian Clift, 1916 to 1997. Almeda Adeline Graves Kaufman Coram. Whew, that's a long name. 1859 to 1937. Amanda Roberts Cooper, 1838 to 1914. But we found out that Amanda was born in Kentucky. Then next to her is her husband, Richard Barker Cooper, 1824 to 1884. And next to him is their son, John W. Cooper, 1861 to 1909. Then there's their daughter, Mary Ellen, they called her Molly Cooper, 1863 to 1936. Then they had another son, Richard M. Cooper, they called him Dick, 1871 to 1928. Now there's Bessie Coram. She was born in March 1887 and passed away only 7 months later. Then her mother is next to her, Elizabeth F. Zachary Coram, 1850 to 1894. And here is Bessie's father, John Raymond Coram, 1843 to 1911. And notice the pretty carving on his headstone. Don't you love that? Have Gilbert B. Coram, 1876 to 1952, and his wife, Martha Jane Frost Coram, 1880 to 1945. Then there's Ida Vineyard Coram, 1883 to 1904, alongside her husband, James C. Coram, 1882 to 1915. Then we have a Raymond Coram. He was born June the 27th of 1897 and died only 3 days later. Now we have Fatty Damewood, 1854 to 1855, and love her little heart, she was only a year old. We also have an infant son of the Damewood family, and unfortunately he was born and died July the 13th of 1843. Next is John Henderson Damewood, 1822 to 1913. John served in Company A of the 4th Iowa Cavalry in Union Army during the Civil War. Now, he was born in Tennessee, so we have no idea how he ended up in Iowa Regiment. But we did find a great picture of him when he was a young man. Look at that. Now is Mary E. Wood Davis, 1851 to 1889. And her husband, Samuel Davis, 1843 to 1905. Margaret Catherine Childs DeVault, 1842 to 1889. Eva Emmeline Coram Donahue, 1882 to 1960. James A. Forst, 1851 to 1890. Daniel David Faust. And I'm wondering if James was supposed to be Faust and they just misspelled it. I don't know. But anyway, David Faust, 1804, 1858, and his parents were early settlers in this area. And in the picture, you can tell someone is clean and aligned and even re-lettered his headstone. That's cool. I love to see that. And next we have Daniel's mother. Now, she was an early settler, Susanna Sophia Clapp Faust, 1787 to 1859. And we found out that she was born in Guilford County, North Carolina. Moving on, we have Sarah Almeida Childs Frost, 1860 to 1889. Driscoll A. Gaines, 1894 to 1943, with his wife Lola C. Nicely Gaines, 1901 to 1966. Lola passed away in Florida, but her family did bring her back here to be buried next to her husband. Now there's Sammy Lou Gentry, 1954 to 1999, and you can see this beautiful angel carved on the headstone. And the inscription says, "Our guardian angel." Love that. Love those headstones. William Grindstaff, 1847 to 1897. Now, William was a potter by trade. I would love to see some of his work. And here he is pictured with his children, James, Mammy, Ida, and David. But we don't have a picture of his grave. And we know that William was born in Carter County, Tennessee, so not too far away. Next we have Jean Lafayette Hankins. They called him Fate. 1835 to 1898. Alongside him, his wife Sarah Ann Zachary Hankins, 1835 to 1890. Cordelia Troutman Jones, 1870 to 1917. We have three members of the same family buried beside each other and sharing the same headstone. So the husband was Marshall Henry, called him Dick, Jones, 1904 to 1973. His wife, Velma H. Jones, 1914 to 2000. And then their son, Thomas Henry Jones, 1932 to 1978. Next is Beulah L. Zachary Julian, 1888 to 1970. Beside her is her husband, William C. Julian, 1882 to 1944. W.K. Kearney's, 1821 to 1891. Etta Cora Zachary Minton. Oh, that's my family. 1889 to 1962, and her husband, James Tillman Minton, 1881 to 1973. Lula Minton. Now, she was only 2 years old when she passed away, so she was born in 1912, died in 1914. Mildred Louise Minton, 1911 to 2001. And you can see that there's praying hands and the doves. It's carved on her headstone. That's really nice. And I am absolutely going to look up this Minton family because I'm sure that they're kinfolk. I love seeing this. Okay, so let's move on. We got Henry J. Mize, 1844 to 1909. He was born in North Carolina. He served as a private in Company B of the 1st Tennessee Infantry in the Union Army during the Civil War. Arthur Clifford Newbert, 1898 to 1988, and his wife, Cornelia Hortense Zachary Newbert, 1901 to 1989. Ona A. Coram Owenby, 1879 to 1965, with her husband W.T. Troutman, 1874 to 1904, and you can see what looks like a book on top of his headstone. And that could be symbolizing the Bible or the Book of Life that they talk about in the Bible. Next is Cecilia, Letitia, Zachary, Pehick, Schmitzer. I'm not sure about the Pehick, but Schmitzer, I can get that. 1922 to 2006, and she was married to Eugene Charles Pehick and also Arthur Schmitzer, but we couldn't find any information about these two men. And now there's Caleb B. Price, 1914 to 1976, with his wife Pearl Jeanette Newbert Price, 1921 to 2006. Julie Ann Cliff Tillett, 1951 to 2021. And in her obituary, it says her husband was Jeff, admired her voice at church, and thought she was quite cute. So their relationship began with Jeff offering to record her singing, and his ploy worked just fine for the next several decades. Now that's a cute memory. That's a very cute memory. And I also like the way they spelled Jeff in that. So let's move on. Delilah Tarver Troutman, 1880-1914, with her husband John C. Troutman, 1872 to 1922. Elizabeth J. Troutman, 1843 to 1920. And right next to her is her daughter, Elizabeth J. Troutman, 1868 to 1921. Then we have Eugene Roy Troutman. He was born in July of 1923, and there goes my clock again. Sorry about that, guys. And he died January of 1926, so he was about 2.5 years old when he passed. Oh. George Mills Troutman, 1878 to 1934, and his wife, Stella M. Zachary Troutman, 1882 1959. Gladys May Troutman, 1901 to 1908, just a child. Then we found an infant daughter of the Troutman family. She was born and she died November the 1st of 1902. Lula Troutman, 1878 to 1950. Marlon Thomas Troutman, 1880 to 1929. And you can barely make out Heaven's Gates opening carved on his headstone. Nellie Mae Troutman, 1899 to 1908. You can see that her headstone, unfortunately, is laying on the ground. Raymond W. Troutman, 1899 to 1968. Sarah A. Troutman, 1870 to 1934. And her husband, Thomas Coram Troutman, 1857 to 1930. Then there's Thelma Luttrell Troutman, 1900 to 1926. Arminda M. Wallace, 1867 to 1953. And her husband, Rufus M. Wallace, 1857 to 1937. And it is said that Rufus practiced medicine for over 50 years. Bonnie Elizabeth Dunn West, 1920 to 2013. You'll notice her headstone does not have her death date. And her husband, Swan Curtis West, 1921 to 1946. Jesse Williams, 1907 to 1930. And we couldn't find a picture of that grave, but we do know that she was born in Tennessee. Louisa Elizabeth, they called her Eliza, Stout Williams, 1873 to 1944. Also, no pictures of the grave, but we found out she was from Granger County, Tennessee. Marie Cooper Willis, 1811 to 1881. Lavana Wood, 1827 to 1887. Boston Dane Wood Zachary, 1872 to 1946, and his wife, Elda Miller Zachary, 1869 to 1932. Then there's Carol Zachary, 1896 to 1948. Now Carol, he served as a private first class in Company 152 of the U.S. Army Transportation Corps during World War I. Effie Mae Zachary, 1909 to 1921. Eliza Ann Booker Zachary, 1858 to 1933, with her husband Thomas Granville Zachary, 1846 to 1938. Now Thomas was a railway fireman. When wood-burning locomotives pulled trains in the South, he was for many years a fireman on the old East Tennessee, Virginia, and Georgia Railroad. But now it is part of the Southern Railroad. He also fired wood-burning engines on the North Georgia Railroad and operated between Knoxville and Marietta, Georgia. And later, he was one of the early firemen on the railway line between Knoxville and Middlesboro, Kentucky, which is our hometown. Thomas became interested in tobacco growing and was the first in Corrington community to grow tobacco. That's interesting. So, retiring from the railroad, the veteran engineer established a blacksmith shop. So, Thomas was a busy man, and he wasn't about to just retire and sit back and relax. He had things to do, things on his mind. Good for you, Thomas. Anyway, let's move on. We got Gary M. Zachary, 1880 to 1886, just under 6 years old when he passed away. Gilbert Zachary Jr., 1809 to 1879, and his wife, Susan Danewood Zachary, 1809 to 1895. And they was both born in Tennessee. There are Gilbert's parents, Gilbert Zachary Sr., 1775 to 1841, and Mary Brodie Zachary, 1775 to 1840. So they just died a year apart. And they was born in Virginia, so they migrated to that area. And so there we go. There's the Zachary early settlers in that area. Then there's Gilbert Plummer Zachary, 1877 to 1978. And Gilbert was just under 101. 101 years old when he passed away. Wow. Helen Owens Zachary, 1923 to 2005, and her husband Wallace Temple Zachary. They called him Bud, 1915 to 1984. Ira Rufus Zachary, 1901 to 1931. James Zachary, 1801 to 1895. We know that he was born in Virginia. And this is his first wife, Sarah Crames Zachary. We don't have any dates for her. But his second wife, Margaret Burkhart Zachary, we know she was born in 1812, but we couldn't find a death date for her. Now, this is another son of Gilbert Zachary Sr. that we looked at earlier. His name was John. They called him Zachary. 1806 to 1894. And his wife, listen to her name, Morning Myers Zachary. Isn't that pretty? Morning. 1821 to 1902. Now, we believe John fought in the Civil War, but we don't know which side he fought for. So we're not going to go there. So we're going to move on. We have John M. W. H. Zachary, 1888 to 1901. And unfortunately, he was only 12 years old when he died. Oh, my. John Wellington Charlton Zachary, 1848 to 1940. His wife, Sally E. Coram Zachary, 1841 to 1909. Now, you'll notice on her obelisk is carved with a curtain draped over the top. And we know that this signifies the passage from one life to the next. I mean, tombstones back then, they thought them out. They made sense. So, yeah, that's really nice. Next is Laura Martha Harold Zachary, 1887 to 1962. Her husband, Samuel Carroll, they called him Mike Zachary, 1883 to 1974. Letitia D. Zachary, 1862 to 1895. Then there's Margaret Chambliss. That's a new name for me. Chambliss Zachary, 1858 to 1894. Maddie C. Brooks Zachary, 1909 to 1967. And next to her is her husband, Samuel Paris Zachary, 1906 to 1981. Olar E. E. Zachary, 1870 to 1884. And unfortunately, he was just a very young man, only 14 years old when he passed. Opal M. Zachary, 1917 to 1940. Paris Zachary, 1904 to 1927. Now, we don't have a picture of his grave, but we do know that he was born here in Tennessee somewhere. Sally M. Faust Zachary, 1883 to 1937. Samuel Shields Zachary, 1845 to 1933. Sephoria, I think that's right. Oof, forgive me. Sephoria Elizabeth Atkins Zachary. They called her Phroney. Yeah, thank goodness, because I'm telling you, if I knew her and I had to say that name, I would have to make up a name too. I'm telling you. That was hard. Pretty, but it's hard. 1873, 1957. And her husband, Temple Zachary, 1857 to 1922. Now we have a 5-year-old. Unfortunately, Susan Zachary, 1898 to 1903. Now, they are 25 people buried here. No pictures of their grave, but I'm going to shout their names out because they deserve it. They deserve to be remembered. So, here they go. Bear with me. George Bernard. He was born in June of 1938. He died in September of 1938, making him only 3 months old. Nancy Lorraine Bernard. She was born in November of 1939 and only lived for 2 months. Charles Victor Robert Bernard. He was born June the 20th of 1948, but only lived for 25 days. We have an infant of the Cardwell family. Don't have any dates for this baby. George Washington Childs, 1844 to 1919. An infant of the Dalton family. No dates for this baby. Ollie Dalton. No dates for Ollie. Lady Jane Forst, or it could be Faust, 1874 to 1894. Melinda Forst, 1854 to 1894. Charlie Frost. Hey, instead of Faust, it could be Frost. Don't know. Anyway, born and died July the 24th of 1890. William Caswell Frost, 1857 to 1922. Hester Fry. No dates for her. An infant of the Hankins family. No dates for that baby. M.H. Joan, possibly Jones, but they called him Dick, 1904 to 1973. Inez Kennedy, no dates. Everett Mize, no dates. Rutha Jane Daniels Mize. She was born in 1854, we know that, but we do not have a death date for her. Mary Troutman. We don't have a birth date for her, but we know she passed away in 1923, so that could be a baby. And an infant son of the Turner family, born and died September the 12th of 1947. Then there's William, they called him Bill, Williams, 1870 to 1929. William Williams. Hardin Willis, and we have no dates for him. Ernest DeWitt Zachary, born on July the 18th of 1885, died 2 days later. Laney Zachary, we couldn't find any dates for her. Levesta Hargis Zachary, 1859 to 1894. And the last person in this cemetery is Manda Zachary, no dates. Now, I know that took some time, but these people did live, no matter how short a time they lived. They had a soul. Most of them had a good life, probably, a long life, probably a hard life. But they also deserve to be remembered, even though we have no dates, no headstones, no pictures, no nothing. We have their names. So, remember those people. Remember this area. This is an old little area that was first settled here. So, that's going to finish our look at the Zachary Cemetery in Knox County, Tennessee. So, we did find some history. We definitely found some history here. And I'm hoping that I found some kinfolk. And again, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for subscribing so very much. If you don't mind, just like everybody else says, just poke that share, like, subscribe, notification buttons. We'd really appreciate it. And until next time, if the Lord's willing, God bless. We'll see you then.